It is tradition that Haman's name be blotted out. In the following several slides, there will be times where you will see a missing word as if it was blacked out. This is at every time that Haman's name is stated. While Vashti is permitted to remain on the royal grounds until her replacement is found, a search is made for all virgins in Susa. This is in order to replace Vashti, but to also distract the Shah's failures on the battlefield and at sea with sensual desires. Iuna and mortals are sent to kidnap 400 virgins by January the 1st, 479 BC. Among them is a daughter of Benjamin. Her cousin is a guard at the king's gate at the palace in Susa named Mardukah. Mordecai, as he is known in the Jewish district, but Mardukah at the palace is the son of Yair, the son of Shemini, a descendant of Kish, a descendant of Benjamin ben Yaakov ben Yitzhak ben Abraham. He takes his younger cousin as his daughter and ward. Before the decree is sent out, Mordecai instructs Hazudah not to disclose her ethnicity. Hege, an official of the Shah, is in charge of the harem. He is charged to tend to all of these women and purify them for a year. Each one is given cosmetics and clothes, which they will wear even on the night they are interviewed by Xerxes I. Out of these interviews, the replacement of Vashti will be selected. Haggai, under divine providence, gives Esther her resources and 7 ladies-in-waiting. While she was in the harem, Mardukah walked around its grounds as his duties permitted. Upon her appearance before the Shah on December 31st, 479 BC, Esther follows some unknown advice that Haggai gives her. Whatever the advice is, she eventually becomes Queen Esther after all interviews are done. After the banquet for her honor is given, Mardukah finds that 2 of the king's officers were plotting to assassinate the Shah. As his duty is to the divine and the Shah alone, he reports his findings. The 2 conspirators are executed by impalement. Haman, the son of Hamadat the Aggai, an officer of the Shah, is up for the advancement of Vizier. As he entered the main gate, or King's Gate, all the officers and guards kneel and bow down to him. However, Mardukah stands alone, defying the royal order. Haman, upset by the defiance of Mardukah, sends royal servants as messengers to figure out why he disrespects him. Mardukah states that his reason as that is he is a Jew. They report that explanation. He sends them back. Messengers ask Mardukah, "Didn't Yaakov and his sons bow to his brother?" Knowing that they are trying to trap him, he says, "Yes, but I am descended from Benjamin, who was yet not born at that time. He never bowed to anyone in his life." This too is reported to Haman, whose wrath is gravely intensified. In order to prevent further humiliation, Haman decides that not only Mardukah, but all Jews throughout the empire should die. On April 15th, 474 BC, Haman and several of his fellow conspirators cast lots to determine when they all will be exterminated, that is, the Jewish population of the empire. He approaches the throne and says, "There is a particular nation scattered and dispersed among the nations in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people. Moreover, they don't observe the king's laws. It doesn't befit the king to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, have a decree written for their destruction, and I will hand over 189,024,000 dollars in silver to the officials in charge of the king's affairs to deposit in the royal treasury. This oath of action establishes Haman as the vizier. On the same day, the king's army commanders and governors receive in their own language a decree stating to exterminate all Jews on Adar 13th. When Mordecai hears about it, he tears his clothes, dresses in sackcloth and ashes, and publicly grieves throughout the city, except at his post. The Jewish masses in every province, even in Yehuda, Medinat, or the province of Judea itself, began to mourn publicly. When Esther's staff learn of Mordecai's state, they inform her of it, in which she responds by sending him clothes, which he refuses. Hatak, one of the Shah's officials attending her, is sent to inquire of him what the cause of such an uproar is. Upon learning it, Hatak relays it to her, and that her cousin requests that she intercede for her people. She has him relay her reply. It is illegal to appear before the Shah unless one has been summoned or an audience has been previously requested. Hatak returns with a warning. If she doesn't intercede, she too will die in the palace, and that relief will come from somewhere else if she fails it. Furthermore, she hears a statement from her cousin through this servant of hers that will soon resonate with her in ways she is incapable to imagine. Who knows whether you didn't come into your royal position precisely for such a time as this? Soon all the Jewish residents in Susa begin to fast for 3 days, while Esther and her ladies-in-waiting do the same. On the third day, she goes unannounced to the throne room. On April 17th, 474 BC, which is Pesach, Esther enters dressed in her royal robes and stands in the inner courtyard of the king's palace. As she stands there, Xerxes' eyes fall upon his favorite queen. However, the court is astir. The scribes search for a record of her having been summoned, which they find non-existent. The guards prepare to carry out the penalty on the queen reserved for those that commit the crime that she has just committed until they see the golden scepter extended towards Esther. Shah Xerxes says, "What is it you want, Queen Esther? Whatever your request, up to half the kingdom, it will be given to you." She replies that she wants to invite the Shah and the Vizier to a banquet. Later that night, Esther is requested again as to what her desire is. She answers by inviting them to another feast. Haman leaves in high spirits until he sees Mordecai at his post. He observes that he doesn't arise. The words of Mordecai echo in Haman's mind. "I will only bow to my king, his political master, and my God, the master of his soul." Haman brags about his position and status in the Shah and Queen's eyes, yet complains about Mordecai's defiance. Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends advise him to build a stake 75 feet high, which will be seen all around the city. It is planned to have Mordecai impaled upon it. Once it is erected, he can enjoy the banquet with the Shah and the Queen. During the night, Xerxes is disturbed and orders the scribes to read the daily journal. As construction workers erect a 75-foot-high stake at Haman's courtyard, and the vizier walks to the palace, a scribe reads the following to the king. One Mordecai, who sits at the king's gate, heard a rumor concerning the attempted assassination of Xerxes by two servants, two of the king's officers from the group in charge of the private entryways, and how he investigated it. The Shah, remembering that they were impaled, asked if anything was done to honor Mordecai. The scribe replies, "Nothing has been done for him." Just then Haman enters the courtyard, and at the Shah's permission enters the room where the Shah is. It is his intention to request Marduka be impaled. Shah Xerxes I asks Haman, what should be done for a man that the king wants to honor? Haman, thinking the man was himself, probably exclaims, for a man the king wants to honor, have royal robes brought which the king himself wears, and a horse the king himself rides with a royal crown on its head. The robes and a horse should be handed over to one of the king's most respected officials, and they should put the robes on the man the king wants to honor and lead him on horseback through the streets of the city, proclaiming ahead of him, this is what is done for a man whom the king wants to honor. Xerxes agrees and orders Haman to personally dress and escort Marduka, which he does with humbling disdain. As Marduka returns to his post, uncomfortable with the undue honor, Haman rushes home humiliated. His friends and wife prophesy his certain downfall, but their conversation is interrupted as certain royal servants arrive to escort Haman to the banquet. As the first day of the Omer begins and the sun sinks below the horizon, Haman arrives to the banquet with the Shah. While dining, Xerxes asks Esther again, whatever your request, Esther, you will be granted. Whatever you want, up to half the kingdom, it will be done. At this, feeling the weight of her nation, the voice of her cousin ringing in her head, and feeling the peace that surpasses all understanding, she requests the following. If I have won your favor, king, and if it pleases the king, then what I ask be given as my own life and the lives of my people, for we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, killed, and exterminated. If we had only been sold as men and women slaves, I would have remained quiet, since then our trouble would not have been worth the damage it would have caused the king to alter the situation. Xerxes, enraged, demands, who is he? Where is the man who dared to do such a thing? Esther says, with the boldness and peace of one filled with holy resolve, a ruthless enemy. It's this wicked Haman. Haman is left bewildered and terrified as Xerxes leaves in his rage of such a treason by his friend and vizier. Haman begs for his life from Esther. Upon returning with guards, Xerxes sees Haman in a compromising position upon Esther's couch. Xerxes, interpreting that he's trying to rape her, lays hands on him and throws him to the guards, who cover his face with a hood. At the same moment, he removes his signet ring from Haman's hand. One of the king's attendants has come with word of a large stake that has been found erected in the courtyard of Haman. He, upon investigation as to the purpose, deduced that it was intended for the man who the Shah honored, Marduka, to be impaled upon, that it was erected for that purpose on Haman's order. After Haman is hauled off, Esther reveals that her real name is Hajjada Esther, but Aviakilia ben Shimi, and that Marduka is Marduka ben Yair ben Shimi. As the sun rises the following morning, the light illuminates the body of Haman, suspended as if hanging on the stake. As the morning endures, Haman's house is deeded to Marduka. When Marduka comes before the court, the Shah and the queen, the signet ring and noble robes are placed upon him, making him the vizier. Esther asks Xerxes to end the plot of Haman. As protocol dictates, a royal decree cannot be reversed. However, a royal decree can cancel out a previous decree. A royal decree is written on June 23rd to enact this. In part, it says that every Jew in every city has the right to assemble and defend their province or defend their lives by destroying, killing, and exterminating any forces of any nation or province that would attack them. Their little ones or their women, or would try to seize their goods as plunder on the designated day in any of the provinces of King Xerxes, namely the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar. It is soon that Haman's sons are impaled on the same stake their father is. After this, Mordecai leaves Shah's presence arrayed in royal blue and white, wearing a large golden crown and a robe of fine linen and purple, much to the city's joy. Between March 6th and 7th, 473 BC, 75,800 men are killed by the Jewish diaspora. Adar 14th and 15th are declared as an annual holiday known as Purim. For the rest of his days as vizier, Mordecai attended to the needs of the holy people throughout the empire. In August 465 BC, Xerxes I and Crown Prince Darius are murdered and succeeded by their murderer, who in turn is executed by Prince Artaxerxes, the latter becoming Artaxerxes I.